Hey guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. My name is Alec Cuenca, and welcome if this is your first time listening to the podcast. Medyo na-stuck ako dun ah. Let's do that over again. Hi guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. My name is Alec Cuenca and I'm your host for today. And today we have a very special episode because today we have another guest. As you know, I am dedicated in bringing on the best minds here in the Philippines to give you the best insights, the best experiences that you can get an idea from that you can apply in your life to make better decisions for yourself and for the people around you. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, then welcome to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you do, go ahead and check out the other amazing episodes because they have a lot of insights that can help you with your life as well. And if this is your end time listening to the podcast, if you are an avid listener of the podcast, then welcome back to the show. I am so happy to see you here right now or to talk with you right now because I know that you're just invested in improving yourself day by day. So, with that, I would like to introduce our guest for today. Our guest is the senior pastor of Victory Makati and the author of three best selling books: Rich for Life, Act Like a Man, Great Sex Book, and Giants for Breakfast. He graduated with a master's degree on leadership at Wheaton College, Illinois. He is my fellow content creator on TikTok with almost 150,000 followers, and he is the host of the podcast Parenthood. Let's all welcome to the show Mr. Dennis C. Brother,
Hello.
welcome. Yeah, welcome to the
Hello.
show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be part of this very famous and huge show. Pero small talk, pero huge following. No? And thank you
Yeah.
for dishing out content. I'm a listener of your podcast. Lalo na pag traffic, I get to listen to fellow podcasters
Oh.
and I get to see and listen to your podcast and learn a lot from it also. So thank you for creating good content.
Thank you as well. I love all your content on, especially on TikTok. Like every time, and I'm glad like TikTok keeps me on that side where I just learn a lot about growing up and being a parent and having better values as well. And it's just a really good thing. We're trying to break down barriers here. We're trying to shift from that traditional sense of educating people, and now we're shifting to this, different platforms such as podcasting and TikTok. And I'm really excited to have you on the show, and it is my pleasure. Again, I said this in some of my interviews that I'm just hosting a platform. All the ideas, all the amazing insights come from my guests most of the time. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part. For being here and accepting my invite. So I before we actually talk about the different things that I want to talk about, I just want to ask, how did you get into this line of work? Or if someone came up to you and asked, can you introduce yourself and what is your story? What would you tell them?
Well, when it comes to content creating, it goes back I think more than 2007. I
Wow.
met this guy. His name is Carlo Ople, and he's
Mhm.
a very good friend. And of course, he's an influencer. Ibang level na si Carlo Ople,
Yeah.
superstar level.
Yeah.
But I remember him telling us, if you don't have a website, you're going to be non-existent. I remember him getting a website for me. Sabi niya, oh, bumili na ako ng website for you. dennisc.com. Mag-blog ka na. That was blogging at that time. I was not a writer. I was not a blogger. But I decided to blog every day for 3 years. And I said, I have so many ideas. I want to spread this to the world. And I started blogging. On the third year, I reached 1 million readers. And I said, okay, I will remove all my analytics because I don't want to do this for the likes and the hearts and the analytics. And I just want to dish out content. So I started, I continued blogging. And then I started writing books also. And this was because of Chinkitan naman, who's also a good family friend of ours. And he said, books are like calling cards. If you don't have a book, it's like you don't have it's a good calling card. It's the highest form of calling card in the
Mhm.
marketplace of ideas. And that's when I started writing books also. So that's my journey in content creation. And it has been a process of maturing from wanting the lights and getting the hearts to just, not really thinking about all those analytics and just dish out content that people would love and that would help bring value to a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that story of yours, and that's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I think what really amazes me is that, at least for some of your fellow content creator, we, for example, like me, I started out with a very selfish approach. Like I would love to see myself have a name. Like that would seem really cool to to be up there, to have likes and followers. But there comes like a moment where you just realize, no, no, it's not about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
about producing value and you're giving to other people. When was the moment for you that you felt na, okay, it's not about the analytics. It's about actually helping people change their lives.
Yeah. I'll be very honest with you. The struggle is real. I think the tension is still real up to this moment.
Yeah.
I've always, being a pastor, no, I preach to myself. Bro, it's
Mm.
not about the analytics, not about the likes. Don't keep looking at your TikTok to see how many are following you, diba?
Yeah.
Just make sure, just create those content, right? And I think it's always a hard check for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like business. If you do business just for the money, I don't think you'll last long. I think
Mm.
there should be a deeper purpose. And it's the same way with creating content and adding value to people. There should be a deeper purpose than just being famous or being liked. And we all know, if you're in this space, that followers are very fickle now. They would like you today, and if you say something wrong, they could just unfollow you with just
Yeah.
one click, right? So I think there should be a deeper, I call it a divine purpose,
Mm.
behind everything. Yet the struggle is real because of our human yung ano natin, yung ego is the enemy nga, sabi ni Ryan
Yeah.
Holiday. Yung ego natin ang lumalaban dyan na parang, I wanted more likes and more followers. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think,
Eh,
yeah.
yeah. So go ahead.
No, I think it's still there. I cannot say I finally arrived. No
Uh-huh.
longer am I doing this for the people. Just try to be honest, and I think there's a maturing process to this.
Yeah, I love that. There is a maturing process to this. And, I could totally agree on that. Like, ego is the enemy. Um, I could say that it was a harder struggle for me when I was reaching 100,000 to 200,000 followers. Because at that time, I literally came from zero. Like, this guy who had no experience, no network, no background in creating content or having, being on social media. And suddenly there's this burst because like one of
Mhm.
our two videos became very became viral. I had like this sudden burst of followers and I couldn't handle it. My ego was so happy at that time. Like he was just like he was splurging on the numbers and the fame and all the messages and all the praises and compliments. But it really destroyed me inside. Like
Mhm.
nagkaroon ako ng crisis na bakit ko ba ginagawa to? Parang ganun eh. Parang I wake up sometimes na no, I have to do this because of that, because people are expecting me to do this, pero nakalimutan ko na yung truer purpose ko. And as you
Mhm.
mentioned it, you're calling it as divine purpose.
Yeah.
Are there any moments, or is there a story behind you figuring out na okay, this is my divine purpose? So for the people who are trying to search or look for their
Mhm.
purpose, how do they get to that spot?
Yeah. Alam mo, it's been a long journey for me. And maybe now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm 40, early 40s,
Mm-hmm.
parang habang tumatanda, doon mo nakikita what's important and what's really trivial in life. I'm
Mm.
not saying I'm old. I think I'm still young, the
Mhm.
age of 41. I'm turning 42 this year. But there's a moment in time when you realize it's no longer just about the potential, but it's really about ano bang pinapagawa sa'yo? Ano bang purpose mo? We hear a lot of potential talks. I'm for potential. Lahat tayo may potential, di ba? Ganyan naman eh, di ba? May potential siya, di ba? Parang ako rin, for the longest time, and in my early 20s, in my early 20s, up to my mid 30s, there's always that drive to perform and tell people how successful I am. There's always that sayang potential ko pag hindi ko to nagawa. I've written 4 books. on my first 3 books, I wrote that because I made it a goal. Ganito ako ka-results-oriented. Every year, I will write a book like Bo Sanchez, right? I will write a book para by the age of 50, meron na akong 20 plus books, ganyan. On my third year, while writing the book, na-convict ako ni Lord eh. Sabi ni Lord, so bakit mo nga siya goal? Pinapagawa ko ba yun sa'yo? Sabi ko, hindi naman. Gusto ko lang. For what purpose? Bakit? Di ba? Doon ako na parang, nga, no? Ba't ko pinapagod sarili ko with all the deadlines, filling up my calendar, not having white spaces in my calendar, not enjoying the relationships that God has given me? Because I was all work, result, content creation, just trying to do everything to make a difference in the world. Yet realizing, marami palang mga bagay na hindi mo makukuha sa heart and life ng mga tao. At maraming mga relationships na mas importante pa kaysa sa mga social media relationships natin. And so when somebody coached me, a leadership coach told me, iba ang potential sa calling. All of us, we have potential. And we can fall into the trap of sayang potential ko. But then that could divert you away from what you're truly called to do. Right? And I think for many of us, Alec, you said it earlier, you were no one, and then a platform came. God opened the door for you. Maybe something's there. But that doesn't mean you're going to be also a doctor or a politician or yung gagawin mo lahat na hindi naman tinatawag sa inyo, Lord. I'm not saying you're not going to do that, but there's a journey for all of us to ask, Lord, ito ba yung pinapagawa mo sa akin? Or parang when is enough? Yeah. Diba? May kanta nun nila, never enough. Diba? It's never enough.
Never
Right?
enough.
When is enough? When can I say and just sit down and say, I'm so happy with life. God has blessed me so much. I couldn't ask for anything. And I think it goes with age.
It's yeah, I think if we I really believe that we can learn from two different in two different ways. First, we can learn from our own mistakes, our own journey, and at the second, we can learn from other people's mistake or other people's journeys, diba? But again, there are some lessons that come with time. So one thing that I really like about what you were saying is the whole concept of potential versus purpose. Like that's like for hindi ko man napansin pero ganun din yung parang subconscious ko during the time that I was, trying and forcing myself to create content. It's because I had to prove something. I had to prove that, I can fulfill my potential. But basically, there's a deeper question that we need to ask is, are we trying to fulfill our potential for ourselves, or are we doing it, you know, kasi yun yung tawag sa atin ni Lord. Yun yung sabi ni
Yeah.
Lord na gawin natin. And that's two completely different things. And thank you so much for bringing that. I didn't look at it as that way. Parang most of the time, niisip natin na pag na-fulfill natin yung potential natin, yun na yung calling natin. Pero that's why some people get burnt out. Even though it's their
Oh, yeah.
passion, even though that's what they want to do in life, pero pag nagawa nila, empty pa din because that's not their purpose. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, so, okay, if given the chance na may lumapit and they would ask na, okay, we understand there's a difference between potential and purpose. How can we say that this is our purpose? Are there any signs? Are there any indicators that we can look for?
Yeah.
Ano mga pwede naming maramdaman para masabi na, ito nga yung purpose natin?
Yeah. Una-una, journey siya. No? So, hindi to yung parang 25 ka, gets mo na agad. I think I'm in a lifelong journey of learning. I'm 42 and I might be saying something now that I might regret saying when I'm 50 and say, actually yung podcast ko with Alec, baka mali yung pagkasabi ko noon. I might say it this way. It's a journey for all of us. And I look back and I cringe at some of the things I was saying when I was 28. Right? And now that I'm 41, ang dami kong concepts before, no? Wala namang masyadong experience. No? Alam ko lang, nabasa ko kasi, pero hindi ko naman talaga na experience. No? And so, number one is a journey. So, make room for mistakes, make room for, dyan ako yung parang, Relax lang. Don't be too hard on yourself. We're all learning. We're in a process. It's like being a pastor. A lot of people want to know God. But knowing
Mhm.
God is not like one time, big time, one magical prayer, and then you got it. It's a lifelong journey until the day you die, right? And it's the same way with purpose. It's the same way with calling. It's a journey. Number two, I think yung mga practical things is learning your giftings. May
Mm.
awareness ka saan ako malakas, saan ako hindi malakas. No? Thirdly, I think, Alec, and this one I'm not sure of, but yung background natin says something a lot about our future. Yeah. I
Mm.
know our past shouldn't define us, but the
Mhm.
past in some ways shape us.
Yeah.
I grew up in a Chinese family. We're all
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. Even though I became a pastor, you can't take out the entrepreneurship in me. That's why I was called to plant a church at the age of 27. Right? I was pastoring
Mm.
people twice my age. There was certain characteristic or genes na binigay ni Lord sa pamilya namin. Na bakit nga kami magkakapatid ganito, no? Ganito yung background namin, no? And I think that one, it was not my choice to be part of that family. But there's something about the gifting, the skill sets that God has given us na dapat aware lang tayo, dito ako malakas, dito ako mahina. So baka hindi ito para sa akin, ito para sa akin. No? So knowing that, and maybe thirdly, ako having those friends who will really tell you kung talagang
Mm.
para sa'yo to or hindi. No? Marami tayong blind spots sa buhay na hindi mo alam. Akala mo okay ka na. Akala mo this is the right way to go, and then somebody tells you, bro, you're going on a route that's really wrong. If you continue
Mm.
doing that, I'm your friend and I'm telling you. I think we need those kinds of friends who would tell us the hard truth. Para lang din ma-aware tayo na, o nga no, hindi lahat ng ginagawa ko naman tama. And I might have blind spots and I need spotters in my life to help me.
I love that. I need spotters in my life. Maganda yun, parang, oo nga 'no, hindi pala natin napapansin na minsan, we're too tied up with our vision, with our goals, with our dreams, pero there are better ways that we could, do the things that we want to do. If we could just have another set of eyes or set of perspective na, oo nga
Mm-hmm.
'no, na you could do this better. Bro, you're doing the wrong thing. And one thing that I wanna ask about that, actually I have a lot of questions with the things that you've said. I love how you pointed out the importance of friendships, like even tough love friendships, especially tough love friendships. And you also brought up like figuring out your strengths, understanding that it's a purpose, it's a journey, it's a journey. It's not hindi endpoint yung okay na alam ko na yung purpose ko. It's
Mm-hmm.
constantly learning about your purpose, and even the trying in learning about your purpose, that should be a purpose as well. Parang ganun yung
Mm-hmm.
dumating sa
Yeah,
akin.
yeah.
No, your purpose right now is finding your purpose. So accept that purpose ng buong puso. So ano, oo nga no, it can be a journey. So accept that. So I want to ask first the thing about you saying na a lot of people saying a lot of people are saying that your past is not a prediction of your future. Technically, that's hypothetically that's correct. Like hindi naman talaga, we can never tell what the future
Yes.
brings, but the past really plays a huge role sa
Oh,
kung
yeah.
paano tayo lumaki. Parang I read this quote, like I know it's a joke or I think it's a TikTok video, na parang sabi niya na if you grew up in a poor mindset family, even if you're the smartest, even if you're like the most skilled, there's still like resistance or maliit yung chance na you'll be successful. Kasi nga,
Mm.
yung mindset na nakuha mo is galing sa maling, parang maling game
Yes.
or poor mindset. Unlike if lumaki ka sa entrepreneur, open or growth mindset, kahit sorry for that. Even if you're stupid, even if you are reckless, even if you're naive, if you make mistake, it doesn't matter. Like the
Mm.
structure and the foundation of your mindset is a growth mindset. So you'll still be able to succeed better than dun sa mga
Mm.
tao na merong poor mindset. So I totally agree on that. And well, I just want to ask dun sa second na sinabi mo, yung you gotta know your gifts, particularly the word gifts. Now, a lot of people are pushing for strengths. Now, how can you say, or why gifts? Why the word gifts? And how can you define your gifts in life? Are there any tips that you can share?
Yeah. Practically, Alec, I think una-una maraming mga tools na
Uh-huh.
available. I'm into a lot of those mga tests. No? I have
Mm.
a friend, si Jason Law, who designed the DISC, and he calls it the unique test. Yung kung ano bang personality type mo, dominant, may I, tas yung S, and C, no? And then, I also went through the Strengths Finder test
Mm.
uh, ng Clifton Strengths Finder. I unlocked all of my gifts from 1 to 36 para lang alam ko. We studied it, my personality type, my strength, how God wired me, no? And I also studied the Enneagram, okay, which is an
Mm.
ancient parang strengths finder na gamit sa mga
Oh.
monasteries in the past and sobra niya parang wow, swak na swak. Ito talaga ako, ito yung dark side ko, ito yung positive side ko. I can lean on the dark side, I can lean on the good side of the gift. Those are very powerful tools. I believe God has given that to humanity for us to learn and be more self-aware. I think there's a lot of talk of self-awareness. But if
Mm.
you realize, wala namang seminar on self-awareness. Kasi it's something you cannot teach. It's something you need to be made aware of.
Mm.
Na, ba't ganun yung tingin niya sa sarili niya? Hindi ba siya aware? Di ba? Kaya nga may yung self-awareness na yan, napaka-importante yan. And ako, I gave a few of my friends, a handful of my friends to tell me, no? As in, kinausap ko talaga, bro, pag may nakita ka sa akin na mali or something that needs to be corrected, you have the license to do so. Tell me upfront. Because that helps me in my self-awareness. Or else I
Mm.
would always believe the fans and the TikTok followers. Di ba? Lodi, pa-mentor, ganyan. Para, oh, tao lang din, tao lang din. Di ba? So, you know, yung sabi nila, don't believe in your own press release.
Mm. Yeah.
Because that is the enemy of self-awareness, believing in your own press release. Di ba na, eto ako si ganyan, or ako si ganito. But then now, ako, ay misis ko, di ba? At ewan ko kung may asawa ka na, Alec, di ba? Pag may asawa na, di ba? Diyan mo makikita. Yan ang number one fan mo, pero yan din yung number one self-awareness tool na binigay sa'yo. Di ba? Pagka feeling mo, ang galing-galing mo na, may magsasabi lang sa'yo na, actually, hindi ka ganun kagaling. And you need those people in your life to bring you down, di ba? Kasi minsan nasa langit tayo, binababalan tayo sa lupa. And what's really reality in our lives. And that keeps us, that makes me grow actually more. Because I'm put to the ground and I just don't believe the praises of people or the what they say on social media. Because a lot of people in social media don't know us as content creators. But there are few people who actually know us. So I think that's very important. The tools, again, the people that are you surround yourself with, para lang mas maging self-aware ka sa anong pwede mong gawin at saan ka malakas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. That's really valuable. I am about to interview Jason Law next week here on Small Talk
Mm.
Podcast as well. And I've also taken the Strengths Finder, pero hindi ko pa siya masyadong nadadive. Parang last month ko lang siya tinake. Tapos
Oh.
nakita ko yung first five. But I'll definitely look into more of that. Kasi feeling ko na parang, ngayon kasi medyo focus ako na, okay, kung ito yung strength, ito yung kaisa-isa kong strength, medyo focus lang ako doon. But there are a lot of strengths pala na we could try to
Mm.
work on and, be in harmony with other people as well. But what I really love about what you said is that you self-awareness is parang ang kabaliktaran ng self-awareness is getting so getting high on your own press release, parang ganyan. Parang oo nga no, akala natin self-doubt yung kabaliktaran ng
Mm.
self-awareness. Di pala yung magkaroon ka ng maling perception sa sarili mo. Yun yung kabaliktaran ng self-awareness. And I love how you pointed out the importance of finding people who can tell you na, "Ops, you're mali ka na dyan. Alam mo, magaling ka, pero dyan mali ka." Parang ganun. You need people like that. And so I want to ask, did you have any friends na, kasi right now, okay, maganda ang harmony ng mga kaibigan mo. You have your friends to hold you accountable. But did you have any friends na hindi ganon? Or how are you able to weed out friends who are um helpful or beneficial for your growth or for your na-align din sa values mo? Did you have any
Mm.
experience with that?
Would you mean to say yung parang same values pero
Do you have like friends na kasi ngayon parang if you're telling us the story na you have a very solid friends na you give them the
mm,
license na, oh, bro, ganyan
oh
ganyan.
yeah.
How do you pick out the people na you can give out na license, or how do you stay away from people na rin or take back the
Mm.
license sa mga taong hindi naman alam mo yun, how do you
Oh, okay.
filter out your friends?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Una-una, dapat may chemistry talaga, no? Yung mga
Mm.
pinipili mo ng gano'n. I think there are people that I'm very vulnerable to. And
Mm.
that would be a handful of people, not even more than five, maybe. I call them my band of brothers. They're brothers
Mm.
for life. May sinabi sa Bible there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And I have what those kinds of friendship. Of parang alam ko, mahal ko naman lahat ng kapatid ko, no? Pero ito, parang malalim ang pinagsamahan namin ito. And I was able to speak into their lives, and it has made our friendship stronger. I was able to rebuke them. Diba?
Mm.
They were able to rebuke me and say really things that I think nobody else would say. And I'm thankful for that kind, and it is developed through the years. No, may
Mm.
away yan. Mahirap walang away eh. Pero yung sabihan nga namin doon sa grupo na yan, bro, there's nothing you can ever do that would make me be so offended that I will cut this relationship. And I think that requires a lot of uh, understanding, vulnerability, and unconditional love o yung agape love na
Mm.
sinasabi nga.
Mhm.
And ako, I'm blessed, Alec, because I'm part of a church community.
Mhm.
And syempre, ang hirap naman, you preach about God's love tapos hindi mo ma-practice sa friendships na meron ka. Na
Mm.
love ni God, unconditional. So, bro, tayo rin ha, para tayo magkakapatid dito. Minsan masakit talaga yung sasabihin. Pero hindi naman kami nagmumurahan o nagtataasan ng boses. Di ba? Parang may respeto naman, may
Mm.
boundaries, may space. But then knowing that there's so much respect. When this brother tells me, when this band of brothers tell me that, that's not right anymore, or you're being too proud. Nasabihan na ako one time, bro, feeling ko yumayapang ka na talaga. Inupuan ako. Because sabi ko nga, results-oriented ako, Alec.
Mhm.
There was a time I grew the church to around 200%. And I thought
Mm.
everything I was doing it was like everything I was touching was like turning into gold, parang ganon.
Mhm.
This older man at that time who was in his mid 40s, I was in my late 20s, took me aside in the office. I was his boss. He was older. I was the boss, but he was under me, but he had a lot of experience, and he told me this. Sabi niya, bro, I just want to tell you, yumayabang ka na. Watch out because I could see it in your language, in your Para ako nabuhusan ng talagang at that time, wow. Ito yung sinasabi ng misis ko na hindi ako nakikinig. Kailangan ko pa marinig sa kanya. Kasi medyo may hint na ako from my wife na, oh, oy, medyo malakas dating natin ganyan.
Mhm.
Because everything was doing well. Everything was
Mhm.
good. And I needed someone to tell me that, hey, that's pride working in you already. It's gonna destroy you. You're not going to last long in leadership if you're going to live out that way. So thankful ako. Hanggang ngayon, may utang na loob ako dun sa tao na nagsabi nun. I think he changed the trajectory of my leadership and made me who I am today. Because of that 5-minute talk there that saved a lot of lives, including mine. Because parang nabalik ako sa lupa.
Ang ganda. It's amazing how God works talaga. God
Mm.
works in mysterious ways na you wouldn't expect it from someone like the least person you would expect it. Doon mo pa makukuha yung message na yun. Kahit ang dami ng signs, sometimes ganun din tayo mga tao eh. We're stubborn. I really can't make an explanation for that. Like sometimes we know certain things. We have a gut feeling about certain things, but we don't want to believe it until there's
Yeah.
this one at the right moment, from the right person, we finally get the message. And I love what you said that that simple conversation changed the trajectory of your leadership. And but you mentioned something na parang sinasabi na siya ng misis mo before. You've had these hints. Now I want to go into that aspect because you've talked a lot about this the journey towards having a purposeful and meaningful life. But I want to touch on a little bit about relationships now, because we talked about friendships, how important friendships are. But I really believe that the best friendship that you'll have, and sabi mo kanina na, the best person that needs to be on your side is your partner or your wife or your girlfriend. How important is having a partner, or what are the qualities that you can be for your partner or you can have for your partner para mag-work yung isang relationship na talagang magtutulakan pataas?
Yeah. You know, one of the books na sinulat namin ni Tammy, yung Why Settle for Good Sex When You Can Have Great Sex.
Yeah.
It's actually not a sex book. It's more
Uh-huh.
of a it's more of a love book. No?
Uh-huh.
Walang pictures namin doon. Walang mga ganyan, Alec. But we tried to get, after counseling numerous hundreds of couples in church. Since the age of, imagine, 27, nag-senior pastor na ako. Parang hearing so many stories, heartbreaks on marriage. The number one enemy of any relationship is selfishness. That it's about me. I'm no longer
Mm.
happy. This is not gonna work out. You know, ako, di ba? Kasi hindi na ako masaya sa iyo, right? Most of the reasoning, divorce, leaving kids behind, hurt, and all the wounds because I'm no longer happy. The selfishness is there, no? And in fact, yung key message namin doon, the key to great sex is coming into the bed thinking, how can I pleasure my spouse? And your spouse thinking the same way rather than what can I get from you. Di ba kasi ganun yung iniisip natin eh. What can I get from
Yeah.
you? Di ba? But if you look at marriage, and that's why I love when couples get married, because you enter into what you call a vow. The vow
Mhm.
means the promise of future love. It's not a promise of present love. It's for better
Ooh.
or for worse, in sickness and in health. You can't perform, you can't do anything, you're not bringing home the bacon because you're sick. I'm sticking with you. Ang lakas nung dating nun, and that only happens in a marriage, we call it a marriage covenant, because you're making that vow, not just before your spouse, but before God. That
Mhm.
supernaturally, you will sustain this marriage. No? And yung nakita ko sa marriage, eye-opener sa akin ng marriage, na sobra kong selfish. Kaya namin nasulat yung libro na yan. I come into the marriage thinking, oh, grabe, swerte ni Tami sa akin. Talagang pag-love ko siya, pagsisilbihan ko siya. Pero nung married na kami, doon lumabas lahat ng inner selfishness ko. Bakit? Bakit nung umpisa? Bakit yung gusto ko ganitong certain expectation, hindi niya nagagawa, nag-aaway kami. Di ba? Parang nasira lahat ng dreams of how
Mhm.
it should be. And sa kanya din, it's the same way. Nasira lahat ng expectations niya kasi iba pala ako sa reality, di ba? Reality versus expectations, di ba? But the heart of that is there's a lot of selfishness. So what makes a relationship thrive is learning how to be selfless. Now, the road to selflessness, that's a long road. It's not overnight, right? And I'm speaking as a pastor who preaches about Jesus, the
Mhm.
power of the Holy Spirit to help you to become selfless. I'm telling you, Alec, it is so hard. Uh,
Mhm.
and and for me, I think it's supernatural to come to a point of selflessness, dying to yourself. No? Yan yung verse na pinakaayaw ng mga couples, no? Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And the whole context of that text was really both of you dying to yourself if you really want to make this work. Yeah. Hindi mo na iniisip sarili mo. Yeah.
That is
Ayun.
that is so amazing. Like dying to yourself. That's the key of being selfless. And I love how you talked about being selfless. Kasi kung hihimay-himayin natin, alam mo, for the people who are listening right now, maybe they are experiencing some relationship issues, and it can all be traced back to that fact that we're putting ourselves, our needs above our partners.
Mm.
And it's a hard journey, as you said. Mahirap talaga, lalo na kung nasanay ka and you come into this relationship expecting that you're going to receive something, you're gonna get something. Mahirap mag-shift, pero posible. 'Di ba?
Yeah.
Posibleng mag-shift ka from a selfish type of love into a selfless type of love. So are there any practices that you could share on how could we shift from being a selfish kind of lover or partner to a selfless kind of one? And also, I want to ask, because when you're being selfless, tao pa rin naman tayo. Minsan,
Mm.
ma-hurt pa rin tayo.
Oh yeah.
Kahit sinong selfless, masaktan ka pa rin. Parang, okay, pero selfless ako. Sige, gagawin ko pa din to. Pero, parang, how do you deal with that kind of pain? Parang ganun.
Mm. The hard truth is it really takes both parties to become
Mm.
selfless. It's called
Mm.
mutual love. No, both of you loving each other. And when we talk about love, kasi most of the time the world's definition of love is very emotion based. Di ba?
Mm.
Study shows now our generation, yes, our
Yes,
generation,
our generation. We're
we
living in the same world.
yeah, we base our decisions, major decisions on emotions. Kaya
Mm.
pagandahan to ng commercial, pagandahan to ng video editing, pagandahan to ng narrative.
Yeah.
Okay? Hindi na to pagandahan ng truth. Pagandahan ng paano mo ikikwento sa akin na talagang matatouch ang puso ko. Di ba? We're very emotions, but nothing wrong with it, of course, except if put to an extreme. But
Mm.
love, if you look at it, it's not just all emotions. It's emotions, yet it is also a decision. No? You decide it. Di ba? Yung study, no? And of course, this is cultural. No? I'm a sociologist. I graduated sociology. No? They made a study that fixed marriages in the past actually produce happier marriages than the marriages that we have now that's based on emotions.
Okay.
Because, sorry, Chinese, no? Chinese, no? Dati, kinakay siya, di ba? Parang, mayroon akong anak, ganyan, ganyan. Tapos, di mo kakilala. Naabutan ko pa yung last part ng mga ganyan, no? But I realize a lot of those work in society because they made a decision to love. It wasn't because
Mm.
gwapo si Alec or sikat si Alec, daming
Mm.
followers ni Alec, type ko na siya. Di ba kung magwapo ka, Alec, pag tumataas followers mo? Di ba? That's so, parang, di ba, para sa, joke nila yun sa mga ministers eh. Tandaan mo, pag nasa pulpit ka, feeling nila
Oo
wala kang
nga eh.
kasalanan. Sobra mong gwapo.
Yeah.
Di ba? Kaya nga,
Yeah.
yun yung sinabi ko,
Kaya.
kailangan mo yung circle of friends telling you, bro, kilala kita. Di ba?
Mm.
So, you know, imagine taking out that factor and a girl saying, no, I made the decision to love you. And I will, love kasi is learned. No? And love is something that you experience. It's something you give. It's not something you just receive. It's something you give away. And so, di ba, like for our kids, I don't know, like we have our podcast, yung parenting podcast, no? You know, it would pain me if I ask my kids, oh, why do you think daddy loves you? If my kid would answer, because I have high grades, I always obey you, I eat right, I eat vegetables, that's why you love me, dad. You know, I think that would pain my heart. Because ang gusto kong marinig sa kanila, love kita kasi anak kita eh. You have nothing to prove. No? I'm your dad. I love you. Right? In marriage and in relationships, it must be the same way. It's a decision. Di ba? Kaya, di ba, favoritism has destroyed so many families. Mas gusto ko yung kasi mas compliant yan kaysa dito sa pangalawa. O, di ba? And it has brought a lot of psychological dysfunction sa atin because love is emotions based or very
Ah,
external. 'Di ba? O mas magaling siya sa negosyo, mas gusto ko siya. Eh ito, ano lang, palaboy-laboy, ayaw ko 'to. 'Di ba? So ano nangyari sa buhay nilang dalawa, 'di ba? Yung favored yung isa hindi nabibigyan ng favor, may rejection, ito spoiled, entitled. So sirang-sira 'di ba yung pamilya? It's the same way with marriage and even girlfriend, boyfriend, you entering into a relationship. If it's out of selfish motive, it's going to do you bad in the long run. No? And learning to die to yourself is under the only way to get there is to experience it. The way to give unconditional love is to experience unconditional love. And I think this is where I'm so adamant about my faith in Christ because it's only in Jesus na na-experience ko yung unconditional love. Yung
yeah.
story kasi ng Bible, Alec, is I'm fully known by God. God knows everything about me, even my darkest secret that I won't share to the podcast listeners now. No, I'm fully known, but I'm fully loved.
Mhm.
Di ba, minsan takot tayo pagka, oh, may girlfriend ka, sasabihin ko ba yung Pasko? Baka i-busted niya na ako. But you will never be fully loved unless you're fully known.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
how can I come to a point where I can be fully known and fully loved? Only Jesus did that for me. And now I bring this brand of love to my marriage. That I can be honest with my wife and with my kids. And they can make mistakes. Why? Tammy, I know you. I know how you think, how selfish you can become. Dennis, sabihin sa akin, I know how proud you are, how selfish you are, but I choose to love you and stick with you. Di ba? Fully known, fully loved. Try that and put that in every relationship you have.
Yeah.
Friendship mo, barkada mo, fully known, fully loved. I think it's gonna change your world. Di ba? But the starting point is to experience that. And where can we experience that? Yeah. I think si Lord lang ata kaya magbigay muna niyan bago natin mabigay sa iba. Kasi kilala tayo ni Lord. Di ba? He's all-knowing, yet He chose to die for us and loved us. So doon ako nanggagaling, and that's why in every marriage seminar, we always tell this. Sa lahat ng wedding na in-officiate ko, I would have some famous actors, actresses come to me and say, that's mind-blowing. Yung iba, parang nag-argue pa with me, nagde-debate, pwede ba talaga yun? Ganyan. Sabi ko, ganon ginawa ni Lord sa akin. So parang, what advice could I give you? I could give you 1, 2, 3 steps, but without the heart, I don't think you can do 1, 2, 3 and sustain that steps that I give you without getting to the heart of why this could actually work.
That is so brilliant, and thank you for sharing that. It is truly mind blowing, and I just want to reiterate the point that you made. Na you can only give unconditional love when you know what unconditional love is,
Mm.
and you'll able to know that when you are able to experience that. I think a lot of people get a hard time with relationship or having a hard time with relationship kasi sa kanila mismo, they're not overflowing with love. They
Mm.
don't know what unconditional love means. So how can
Mm.
they give that to other people? And I just really love how you pointed out, because that's been my journey as well. Before, I was dependent on someone or someone's actions, reactions on my my worth, or the feeling of me being loved. That's why nag self-destruct ako kasi akala ko walang makakapagbigay sa akin nun. And then when
Mm.
I actually learned about, how my how my faith works or God works, na parang, no, I actually love you even though, despite, regardless of what is happening to you, regardless of how you think, how you act right now, I still love you. And nung
Mm.
na-realize ko yun, tas kaya niya palang i-turn, parang mo yun, binago niya yung buhay ko ng biglaan. So I realized, okay, mahal pa pala ako ni Lord kahit ganito lang ako, kahit
Yeah.
ganito lang ako. And after that moment, that's how I approach my relationships right now. Or even when, not even romantic, kahit yung mga kaibigan ko, like, no, kasi ako na-try ko na before, kahit sobrang walang-wala talaga, kahit wala akong dahilan para mahalin ako, merong nagmahal sa akin. I learned that.
Mm.
And it's just overflowing, and it overflows to a lot of people. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I hope people can realize that that actually changes your life. Like if they only know how how mind blowing, how life changing that advice is, and I hope that they apply it in their life. So if you're listening right
Mm.
now and you're trying to look at your relationships, please replay that over and over again until you get that, because that's truly life changing. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I want to go on to talking about your podcast. Your podcast is called Parenthood. So, can you just share what's like the concept of the Parenthood podcast and what's your main mission in the podcast?
Yeah, the podcast started because my wife and I wanted to have a shared activity. Lalo na
Mm.
kung lockdown na to. Something that we enjoy is to have well, she enjoys a lot is to have conversation. No? Ako, typical lalaki ako, parang pwedeng muna tayo magkwentuhan. Hanggang small talk lang ako. So I'm forced to have deeper conversations with my wife. And so we
Mm.
get to discuss that. But now with a wider audience. And that's why we called it our parenthood, parang neighborhood.
Mm.
Because it's a conversation. We're not experts. But we want to share our journey, and we want to share in you sharing it with us, your journey as well. No, parang sabay-sabay tayo to raise our kids, di ba? It takes a village to raise a child. That's the whole concept. No, so we talk about marriage, we talk about parenting. My wife is now doing free coaching with some of
Mm.
the people there. No, she meets up with around kung ilan yung nag-sign up sa Zoom niya just to talk about motherhood and
Mm.
pregnancy and breastfeeding and yung mga ganong stuff ba, no? And hopefully pag may time ako, I'll be also doing that to the dads. But parang the very heart of it is wala, gusto lang namin mag-journey sa inyo. Dami namin maling ginawa, kukwento namin sa inyo, no? At mayroon kami mga natama din, kukwento rin namin sa inyo, 'di ba? And that's the very heart of our parent.
Yeah, I love that. I think all most of the podcasters can relate. Now, we're just sharing our stories, and we're glad that a lot of people can connect to it and can learn from it. But it's also just putting it out there and sharing our story, sharing our experiences, and looking at our growth na rin as well. Because sometimes pag sa mga gantong activities pa natin nakikita yung, ay, oo nga, no? May mga ganong anxious pa tayo. Ay, oo nga, no? Pwede palang ganon. Or we could do better pala sa ganyan-ganyan. So it's an amazing opportunity as well to bond then with your partner. And
Mm.
I'm so excited about that. I'll listen more to more of it. I'm not yet a parent, but I'll definitely check that out. And I could get more relationship advice because I really enjoyed this conversation, and I cannot thank you enough for this amazing conversation that we had, this amazing talk that we had. And before I actually let you go, I just want to ask, for the people who are in their 20s, figuring out how to be a better person in terms of
Mm.
not just financially, not just in relationships, but in having better values to having a better journey towards their purpose. What advice can you give to them?
Alec, I'll try to link this up with what we're doing as content creators. To everybody listening, you will never know when that one line that Alec might say or I might say in a 1 hour podcast, there might be a 2 minuter there that would change the course of your life. Parang magkakaroon ka ng parang aha moment. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the wake up call, right? And so we want you to be yung parang sponge, just
Mm-hmm.
learn from people, learn from experiences, uh, makiusyoso sa mga conversations ng mga podcasters. There might be something there, like like what you do, Alec. I think it creates a lot of napapaisip ka. You're
Mm-hmm.
not telling us what we need to do, but you're making us think. And I think those are good conversations. I think our conversation now would make us think also, di ba? Ako, I
Yeah.
get to, o nga, no, parang, di ba, if I listen to some of your podcasts, mapapaisip ka. Or even sometimes TikTok lang, di ba, na parang 30 seconds lang, di ka nga sumayaw doon eh. So parang,
Mm-hmm.
uy, may tama yun sa akin ah. And then mapapaisip ka. No, I think, guys, I would encourage you subscribe to podcasts like this, to the different podcasts that adds value. And then there's a lot now in our podcast network Asia that would do that, because you'll never know when that aha moment would come, just because of that one liner, or maybe that certain segment of that podcast, or a preaching that you listen sa YouTube while I'm preaching, and you, oh, ooh, and it will forever change your life. You will really never know. So be a learner, uh, consume the right content so that you'll become a better producer now in our society.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure the listeners of this episode would really appreciate this episode because I've learned a lot. And if I was able to be like a sponge, I'm sure our listeners can be like a sponge as well and learn and find that simple idea that could potentially change their lives for the better. So thank you so much. And before I actually let you go, I have this small segment here on Small Talk. It's called five questions with so this is five questions with Dennis C. And basically I'm just gonna ask you a question and you're going to answer it with either one word, one phrase, or one sentence, no explanation. So it's ano parang fast talk pero medyo wholesome
Okay,
naman yung bagsakan. Okay. So are you ready?
go.
Okay. So first question, what is happiness?
Happiness is a choice.
Mm, I love that. Second question, what is success?
Oh, success is relative. The more success, the more relatives.
That's new. That's an interesting approach. Thank you for that. Okay, third question. What's the best advice that you have ever received? Got
Sorry,
lost.
sorry.
I got
Choppy,
lost. Hello?
choppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
go.
Okay, third question. What is the best advice you have ever received?
Live a simple life.
Wow. Wow, there's so many things to dive into that. But thank you for that. Fourth question: what is the worst advice you have ever received?
Fulfill your fullest potential.
Yes, that's amazing. That's something to think about. Every time we hear that right now, we need to look at it, twice. Okay, thank you for that. Last question: what do you want your legacy to be known for?
I just want my family to say, that's a husband who loved his wife, a father who loved his kids, and a faithful servant of the Lord.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brother Dennis C. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences and your insights. I really hope that we could talk more because I really enjoyed this conversation and I think I could, get more out of you. Papagalitan na lang ako ni Kai kapag humaba na. So, but I'm hoping to talk more topics and have more talks with you. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate this. If they want to learn more about the things that you do, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I'm in YouTube. You can look at Act Like a Man Philippines for long form content.
Mhm.
Also on TikTok, Dennis CSC, and Instagram, Dennis CSC. Also.
Yes, and your podcast, of
Oh
course.
yes, our podcast for parents, our Parenthood podcast, conversations we have on marriage, on parenting, and life.
Yes, go ahead and check that out, guys. You will love it. Again, thank you so much. I'm just full. I'm just full of wisdom right now, and I can't wait to share this episode to a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, guys, if you like this episode, go ahead and share this on your Instagram. Do not forget to tag us at Dennis C. Am I correct? And at Alec Cuenca or at Small Talk Podcast. And if you want to learn more about the things that I do, go follow me on Instagram, on TikTok as well at Small Talk Podcast. And if you are listening on Spotify, please leave this podcast give this podcast to follow. It really helps the podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcast, please leave a rating and review because that pushes up the rankings of this podcast. The podcast is growing because of you guys. So thank you so much for all of your support. And also, if you want to be a part of my weekly group coaching session, send me a message at Instagram at Small Talk Podcast or at Alec Cuenca. Again, this is Alec Cuenca. Thank you so much for listening. This is Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. And I will talk to you guys next episode. Bye bye.